all the way out in this ocean, there is a ship. I want to begin automating, but everything is scattered. So I'm going to be building some railways to connect everything. I do want to start here, since this is the very beginning of all my factories. For realism, the best way to get ores from this would be having something drive up to this and bring it to the shore, but I don't want to do that. I want to bring the whole train out here. Simplest way would be laying the rails on ice and having the train just stop here and then drive on back, but I do want to put more effort into it than that. There needs to be some way the rails can come all the way out here, and I think I have a plan. I've got the bridge all the way out here to the boat. The plan is to have the trains drive up to here, unload from the boat, then head out. I don't know how it's going to work. I might have to have it so they can go out there, turn around, come back in. But the bridge, this is what I thought of for some way to go across the water. When I was looking for what could be done to get the rail to go across the water, I did see some bridges where they were these thin rails suspended above the water, but I ended up putting this one into the water since it'd look a little weird having this tall piece above the ice. Also, the water is very deep, so I had to make sure the pillars were looking somewhat structurally sound, so it's not these little twigs that's being held up on. I couldn't find a nice deep underwater shader, so I've just stuck with complementary. It gives too many sun rays underwater and it's very difficult to see, but all the other shaders I saw that I took a look at were meant for shallow waters. I don't know of any good deep underwater shader. If we head inside this boat here, you can see this is where all the resources are being piled up. I have trains that come in, deliver the resources from below. Oh, you can see one right there right now. I made these little submarines. I thought it looks nice. I wanted something simple. You can see that it has like these little windows on it and a little blaze in there. I didn't have the resources to make the invisible tracks, so you do just have these rails flinging around the ocean. Maybe someday I can turn these invisible. Back up here though, been having all the resources for all the different Z events I'm mining, just store in some vault. That way everything is collected and a lot easier to eventually transport up onto a train. Tracks don't go too far just yet. I've just built this part that goes straight from the boat to here, and then I need to figure out where I'm going to go from here. I'm using 2 tracks this time. I was going to be doing the single track like I did everywhere else, but managing traffic is a lot easier with 2 rails. Taking a look at the map, you can see that right here is that original steel mill, and then my boat's all the way up here. What I'm thinking is I could probably have the track come down and then across the river over here, and then I just run a second line going to wherever that way. But the most important part would be to have some way that I can connect it into the factory from the railway here. The terrain is quite steep as it is, and the mountain is fairly large. I might consider removing half the mountain, since this would be a great spot to centralize all the resources. It's really hard to gauge where I could put a rail line, but I'm probably going to stick one right over here, going straight across, and then just cut out a whole bunch of trees. Let me get the rail line up to there first, though. Good progress being made on the track. There's still a lot more to go, but I'm wanting to switch over to make something. If you notice, the tracks everywhere are floating, and there's still a lot of terrain that's going to be carved out, but there's something I can do to help with this. The most common way this is done is by placing a wall of drills and then connecting onto a train like so. And if you want to fill stuff below the tracks, you'd place a line of rollers somewhere also connected. This works perfectly fine, but there is 2 tracks. I don't want to go through this place and do it twice. So what I'm thinking is extending this out across both. There does come a problem. You can't place bogies on the other side of the track, so the train will still be on one side. It'll just visually look like it's going across. Something like this is what I'm thinking of, because that way it still lines up pretty well, where it's not really noticeable that it's not fully centered, But in order to make this, I'm gonna need to figure out some sort of big train design. I don't have anything currently set in mind. There's many different possibilities what I could go through. It just needs to have some way that I can incorporate a bunch of drills and then some sort of paver on the back. Let me see what I can make. Usually a blockout's pretty quick, but this one took a bit longer than I thought it would. I went through so many different designs, but I did end up settling on one. It's based off the Factorio train. I just stretched it out so it's wider than it would normally be. Also gonna be taking this plow thing that's fairly prominent throughout other different builds and sticking out on the front further away. This is what it looks like behind the scenes, where you have a whole bunch of drills and plows. The plows are there to break powdered snow, since there's a fair bit of it in this world. I don't know how this is gonna turn out, but I think that I finally have a good starting point. I think I'm happy with how this turned out. I'm gonna need to get the plow for the front because currently this thing has zero functionality besides just being a decorative piece moving around. And then I'm also gonna need something for rollers behind it so I can lay down the snow and the tracks and whatever. Let me get this copied over, and I think if I just do the plow and then the rollers, that should be enough. The question now is, how close do I want this plow? I guess it doesn't really matter. I can just put it out front here, since this will be a separate train they'll just hitch up to. You know what? Sure. Let's see how I can make this look good. I've got the plow done. It has a little control room here where you can turn on and off all the different drills and stuff. Also, the storage is just gonna be up here. I didn't think about that until like the last minute. I was like, oh wait, I do need storage. But one of the things I'm wondering is if I should add more red stuff into it. I wonder if that would look nice. It'd make it look interesting. I don't know if it's better for it. That just leaves creating some train that can have these rollers on it. Did I just waste a whole bunch of time? I probably should have tested before I went through the process of building everything, but I am fairly certain that this will work. I got in the world. I haven't assembled it yet. There's still more I need to do. Apparently, you can't glue large trains or else they'll turn invisible. There's some bug with that right now, so I just split it. The cart back here, I could have put a lot more effort into it, but it's already been 2 months, and I wanted to get this done, because this is just a small part of what I need to do. There's also some extra glue that needs to be gone. There we go. It's now assembled and slightly compressed together. Each section on its own looks good, but together, it's utter chaos. You can tell I didn't have a set direction, but this will work for now. I just wanted something that would help me clear the train, and this is a lot better than previous wall drills. But now that it's assembled, let me take it for a quick spin. I want to see what I can do. There we go. So this entire thing should be assembled. It's just that little back part's disconnected. Oh, I should turn off the front plows. The drills are on. I see that. Let me through. Okay, this door is bad. I can't. What? If we go on turns here, you can see that the train doesn't look too bad, but it does kind of bend in on itself. That's just a limitation of how the mod works. Oh! That could have been death. Okay, that's fun. What even is that? That's so deep. Why? Alright. I'm awake. This thing is working great. It really flings the snow in tunneling. There's one last thing I need to do. These rollers in the back are empty except for some snowballs. I'm gonna need to fill them up with a bunch of snow. That way I can actually place something down. And I do have a snow making machine off in a bunker that I can fill this with. The sweet journey. This train doesn't exactly fit on the smaller railways, but that only matters visually. It just looks a little funky. It does, however, fit into the bunker if you just ignore the tracks. This is my snow machine. It just flings columns around and then scrapes up the snow, turning that into blocks. Could be better, but I kind of like this, and it gives me plenty. There we go, that connected. So now I can finally unload this machine into here. How do I start? Well, I'm so glad I left a note here. RPM to 16. These cryptic instructions. Oh, but the belt's not moving. Hold on. There, that looks like it's working now. That should be enough snow. Let me see how far this takes me. It's reading as 10,000, but it said that 15 minutes ago and I've been still filling. I don't know where it's going. It might just be voiding all the extra snow, or it's not able to accurately count. But either way, that should be plenty for quite some time. Which means it's time to get back on the road. I've gone as far as I can, but I did run out of snow, so I'm gonna need to make an easier way to get snow in the future. But as for how this turned out, this will work just fine. So this will make automating rail traffic a lot easier than the other one. I'm not gonna be going in, adding in snow layers like I did on the other track over there, because there is so much more to do, and that will take me hours. I don't want to spend it doing on that because it doesn't really matter as much. You hardly ever see it, and I think it looks just fine with these blocks. Anyways, especially at this scale. When it was a tiny thing, then I can understand putting in snow layers. So this just leaves the entire rest of the railway. I did start out by laying out the outline for the slope of a bridge. I don't know what I'm going to do here. You can see my first track comes right along the edge of the mountain here, and then just makes a sharp cut in. I'm wanting this other one to go further out into the forest over here, and then eventually hook up so I can actually use these red mountains. When I first made this world, I was seed hunting for something that has these big red mountains, just because I thought it'd be really cool, and then I never went over here. I did build close to it, but I want to do something with these mountains. The good thing about that area is it's all land, so this is the last bridge I'm going to have to do. Then it's just cutting down a lot of forest. So I think it's time to get to it. This is one of the first times in this world where you can see two builds next to each other. I want to do this more. This is really cool, just seeing the contrast where it's not just a standalone structure all by itself. Because that's how most of these things are. Like over here with this steel mill, there's nothing else here. It's just forest. You can't see any other builds. But here where they're finally having stuff that crosses, I want to do more of this. This is cool. I think it's a great improvement over this first one they did. I do wish that there was more variety you could do with these monorail tracks. These are monorail tracks that I used to make the beams just because they give something that can curve. They don't curve enough to what I want to do, so I had to do some weird tie-in together. I think it still looks fine. Also, I had these, and it's like catwalk stairs that just zigzag up and down to kind of give that cross-braced look. I did end up having to make another bridge right here, but this is just reusing the one I used to cross the water. However, here is where I finally reached the Scarlet Mountains. If I'm wanting some room for a structure in here, it's going to have to be up against the side of the mountain, and the best place for the rail would be to go curving inside the mountain over here, and then straight across going back, so this would be a loop. I don't think I'm going to continue the rail going down the mountain. I did consider having the rail just come all the way down and just follow along, but there's not really a reason for that. Now it's connected. I decided to make this railway going to the old track a more permanent connection instead of having it just go through a tree, because I'm probably going to be using this a lot more. I also switched to using this smaller drill machine just because the big one is far too big for a single track going down here. I don't mind having a single wide track going out there because this is probably never going to be automated. All the automated traffic is going to be going on this track, so I don't have to worry about anything about collisions and all that. Now with this area in a mostly done state, I think it's time to finish out the track. When building over here, I found something interesting. Apparently, the weather is below me. I don't know why, but particles just kind of stop at that height. The snow particles being absent gives this mountain an interesting fog effect, which does give me ideas for potential future builds. It's so imposing here. Oh, I gotta hold off though, because this area is gonna have to come later. I'm not gonna go in and fill out all the tracks below here. I'm gonna leave them as floating. I also decided to split the track in two because I don't think I want a main line going out there, since there's no reason to have double lane traffic. That's just redundant. I will be leaving this area for future ideas, projects that could be going on. With this part done, that means all the railways are finished. Let me go down to the snow zone. These are both trains I've made in the past, with the intent of automating. The newer one is visually better and more detailed, although there still is something I think I could do with this one if I remake it. Anyways, the newer one has some lighting glitches which I have yet to figure out how to fix, and it's quite small, especially with now having these large railways. The older one is bigger, and maybe fits in more with the rails. I think you know where I'm going here. I want a new train. And I do want it to be in the style that I was attempting with a large tunneler. But I don't need to make one, because, I already did. This turned out better than I thought it would. I did have a lot of problems trying to get this front to look nice, especially this part curving in here. For this back section, I tried a lot more detailed lower part and a much cleaner top. And then even in here, trying to give some nice highlights for like these little pipes. I did try it with like a pure white or even a darker color, but those were too extreme. It makes it more visually distinct and not as cluttered feeling. I like how it turned out. If you want to enter the train, you have to climb up the side of it, so, well, I guess that works too. There's nothing for interior, it's just this is going to be the driver, and then you have your own little spot up here. For storage, each of these is filled with a bunch of item vaults, and then you just have portable storage interfaces right in the center of each cart. I can easily swap the interior out for fluid storage, but I don't have any purpose for that right now. These could definitely hold a lot more cargo than what I have them set up for, but I don't know what I'm going to be using this for yet. So I think it's time to actually put some work into automating, because I've made multiple trains of saying, oh yeah, it is time to go automate. Okay, it's time to do that now. Part of the process of automating is going to be placing trade signals along the tracks. This is just splits it up and acts as kind of like a stop point if there is another train ahead, just so you don't have any collisions. These are going to need to be added all over the place. I think I'm getting ahead of myself before I try to automate here. There's a lot more that I need to do. I haven't even finished the train because it's so expensive. It's still missing one of the carts. Just trying to find a place to unload stuff in at least a half cheap fashion manner is not going to work. There's a lot more things I need to take into account before I can actually do what I wanted. Although I think technically you could say I did automate. Below here is originally what I was going to be doing, but I couldn't find a way to make this interesting. It's just placing submarines and heading to drills. It does, however, automatically bring the resources here, so that should count, right? I did automate something, although it doesn't really go anywhere except into depots. It has been a while since I last shared progress here, and I wanted to wait until I had something a little more interesting. There's still plenty more I want to do with this world, so I'm not done yet. And I think I'm going to be moving on to making this so-called main factory building. I have a few ideas for that I want to try.